The Colts are about to welcome the Detroit Lions to town for a few days of fun, and the Colts are getting back a really intriguing injured player just in time for all the action. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Colts fans, thanks so much for tuning in and making us your number one listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am Jake Arthur, joined as always by my partner, Zach Hicks. For anyone new to the show, you know us from horseshoehuddle.com. I'm also a credentialed member of the Colts media. I bring you the scoop from camp each day. There at the facility during the season, and I'm also a member of the PFWA. Zach, why don't you tell our new guy and gal pals here a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been working at Horseshoe Huddle now for the past year. Before that, I kind of made my name in the indie market through Stampede Blue with SB Nation. Big film guy, a big draft guy. I've worked with Draft Wire, Cover One, Locked On before this, actually, back in the Washington market. So I'm sure you guys see me around, especially with all the, I got all 22 for the preseason. So I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of my clips there on social media the last couple of days. So,
people in Southern Indiana, they call it Washington. So if you ever come and visit Indy, just know that that's what Washington is if you ever hear it. We've got a packed show for you guys today. First, it's finally time to talk about Mike Strachan as he makes his return from the PUP list. We'll also discuss Kenny Moore and DeForest Buckner's placement on the NFL Top 100 list. And we'll tell you what we're looking for out of the Colts joint practices with the Lions on Wednesday and Thursday. So, Zach, up first. Megatron's back, baby.
He is.
That
he
is.
Right. No, yep. I'm excited, man. We need it right now because, if we're looking at this wide receiver 5 competition, Desmond Patman's kind of been, you could attest to this more than I can, but we haven't really seen much from Desmond Patman this offseason. A little bit in practice. Yeah. He had that one nice catch in the game, but that's kind of it. And then Kiki Kuti, the guy that we've been hyping up as wide receiver 5 all offseason, did not have a great game at all. Left the game with an injury. Might have been his fault on that Nick Foles interception. I'm hesitant to say it is his fault because I have no clue. I don't want to just assert blame without knowing, but it looked like it could have been a miscommunication or maybe just a bad throw. But he was targeted on an interception. And then there were some plays where the effort really wasn't there. So, right now that wide receiver 5 spot, if Mike Strachan was going to stay out on the PUP to start the season like we kind of expected and what we thought was going to happen, I would have said that the Colts wide receiver 5 would have not been on the roster. But now Mike Strachan has a couple practices, a couple joint practices, a little bit of preseason games to kind of earn that wide receiver 5 spot.
Yeah, so to give you guys a little background on the situation, Strachan had a procedure on one of his knees back in the spring, missed the vast majority of all that. He wasn't out there for the mandatory mini camp. Started this training camp on the physically unable to perform list. We were curious, like Zach just said, if he was going to get out here for training camp. But this timing is exactly what he needed. We said if he can have like a week or two of training camp and get back in there, have a couple preseason games, that's how he can get back into the thick of it for this race against Desmond Patman and Kiki Kuti for wide receiver 5 and or 6. Previously we didn't think the Colts would keep 6. Now they may be compelled to do so again. Patman and Strachan could be 5 and 6 again. The biggest difference, I think, is how he could look with Matt Ryan. I don't know. I'm sure he's going to have – they're going to ease him in a little bit because you're not just going to go from 0 to 100. But once he gets out there catching passes for Matt Ryan, I'm really intrigued because I think with his blend of size, speed, athleticism, that's something Matt Ryan can utilize.
Yeah, we have to assume that at least for the time being, like in these joint practices, he's going to slide in alongside Desmond Patman, like as that like what we said a lot throughout camp is, your first tier of guys that we've seen have been Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce, Paris Campbell. And then Ashton Dullin's kind of been tier like 1B, like right behind them. And he's safe for sure, obviously. But tier 2 has kind of been Desmond Patman, Kiki Cudi, DeMichael Harris, even though he's been dealing with injuries as well. You got to think that Mike Strachan kind of rotates in with there, and he's going to be running a lot with Nick Foles during these joint practices. He's going to have a lot of opportunities to make a name for himself. He had a great camp last year, had a great preseason, had some run early in the season, but it just, in that early season run, you could tell that he was a player that was kind of in over his head, didn't really know the playbook, was kind of making some mistakes out there, and it led to him not really seeing the field the rest of the season. So I'm curious to see, mentally, just to see how far he's grown. Do the coaches actually trust him? Do the coaches trust him to run these plays, even if it is just preseason, is just vanilla? Can he carry over that preseason success he had last year to this year? And can he show that he's kind of grown in the mental aspects of playing wide receiver? Because that was the only thing that held him back a season ago. Because early in the season when he played, he had some production. It's just that the mental side kind of held him back. But if he's shown growth in that area, there's nothing really holding him back from being, wide receiver 5 or maybe wide receiver 4, rotating snaps with Ashton Dulin.
Yep, you're exactly right. And I liked what I heard from him when I talked to him in the spring. He said he knows this is a big summer for him. It's a big opportunity. He needed to work on being more consistent in practice, and he really wants to get involved in special teams because he knows that's like the X factor in a fringe roster guy getting onto the 53. So he knows that. But the reason this is a big deal, and we're, leading off the show with it, is obviously the receiver group has, it's unheralded. There hasn't been much coming from it to inspire more confidence from people. So this could be a nice shot in the arm. Mike Strachan, for those of you who don't know, he's like 6'5", 225, something like that. He's a guy where if he was any slower with that frame, you'd say he'd make a great tight end, but he does have terrific speed and athleticism. So he's essentially the smaller Drew Ogletree, if you want to look at it that way. So the Colts could really use a guy like this. That people say they've been struggling with separation, getting open, things like that. A guy with this wingspan and size is always open, and he's got the strength and quickness to get some separation. So, I mean, he's not a finished product by any means. He's farther along than I think we thought he was going to be last year. But like Zach was talking about, how much of the mental side has he been putting into it? Like, are we going to see this big jump from him? Because he had a terrific training camp last year, just based on his athleticism and being bigger, stronger, faster than the guy covering him in one-on-ones most of the time. So if we see the kind of stuff we've seen from Ogletree, where he's like making catches in traffic and doing damage in 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s, that could be really encouraging because it's more of a game setting.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say, because I know we have to move on here in a second, but I think there's a 1 or 2 gunner spots that are still wide open for the taking because, maybe this is just a gut feeling, but just watching that preseason game, watching everyone else kind of run at gunner and not seeing Ashton Dulin do that. And then all off season where the coaches have said Ashton Dulin's going to be part of the offense, I think they're going to take Ashton Dulin off of those gunner roles, or at least not have him out there as much. As of right now, I would say the leaders for gunner are Isaiah Rodgers and Tony Brown. But Isaiah Rodgers is going to miss most of this week. So this is a big week for Mike Strachan to earn that wide receiver 5 or earn that wide receiver 6 spot by playing special teams. Can he come out there and be a gunner and show his ability there? Because like you said, I mean, he's a big body guy, but he also runs 4.4. Like he's got burner speed for a guy with his size. So if he can prove value as a gunner and he can run alongside Tony Brown out there at gunner and show like, hey, I belong here. One, that's great because you can get Isaiah Rodgers off of that gunner because I don't want him getting hurt in any other way. But 2, that's how you prove your worth, and that's how you make a roster. So this is a huge week for him, not only on offense, but also on special teams, because as we've seen with Ashton Dulin continually made the roster as a special teamer, and now he's going to get a real chance with the offense. If Mike Strachan can take that same route as a 7th round pick, that's optimal for those kind of guys.
Yeah, I'm going to have my eyes glued to him this week. I'm going to be on Strachan watch. I got to know special teams and offense. But just like the Colts adding Strachan to the receiver group is a healthy move, our next partner has a product that's always a healthy move for Zach and me. I started taking Athletic Greens AG1 because I struggle balancing the time to prepare healthy stuff in my diet throughout the day, and it's just really easy to do with them. Now I've been on it for a few weeks, and I love it. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy. If you've ever had some super green type drink mixes or anything like that before, you know exactly what I mean. AG1 is kind of a mild tropical taste that I actually look forward to each morning. So what is this stuff? Well, with one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. That's a lot of stuff, guys. That's a lot of words I said, and that's a lot of stuff that's in those scoops. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All things. I've always been big on trying to get as many healthy things like vitamins, minerals, etc. into my mouth as quickly as I can without having to do anything elaborate because I don't make much time to eat throughout the day. So this is absolutely perfect for me. Just kind of knocking out all these birds with one stone. For me, my wife and I just toss in some water in the morning, down the hatch, and we're off.
It's lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, it's cheaper than getting all the different supplements yourself. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 five-star reviews, and it's even recommended by professional athletes such as the ones you hear us talk about on the network every day. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills, supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NFL network. Again, this is athleticgreens.com/NFL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, Jake. So we have to talk about the NFL 100 players. Now, we have to throw out a little stipulation before we talk about this because we've seen players in the past. Like I think Andrew Whitworth came out, or Andrew Whitworth, or it was some retired offensive lineman, came out and said, a lot of players don't take this seriously. They don't. It is the NFL rankings, you know, for anyone who wants to get upset, like, oh, why is this player not on here? Or why is this player so low? Or why is this player so high? Take it with a grain of salt. Just being on the top 100 is the honor itself, not really where you are in that top 100. That being said, we have 2 Colts that made the list. Kenny Moore made his debut at number 82. It's his, he made his first Pro Bowl last year, and now he's making his first NFL top 100 list. There was a lot of great things said about him too on there from Tom Brady. Chris Godwin, I think, was on there. Cooper Kupp was on there saying that was, one of the best players in the league. So what did you think about Kenny Moore's inclusion on the list at number 82? So he was ahead of another corner. I think he was ahead of like Denzel Ward, which I thought that was a little wild, even though I love Kenny Moore. But what do you think of his inclusion on the list and being, right there at 82?
Yep. So I think it was the top 50 top 50 were released last night. I can't argue with that. Kenny just being on the list, I think, was necessary. Anywhere he would have landed on there, I think I would have been fine with it, just as long as he was included. He's got to be one of the top 100 players in the league. He's widely considered the best slot defender, so that counts for something. Just the way he affects the game, he does some things that not a lot of other guys do. I've said before, the Colts have a few players on their team that just kind of leave me in awe with the things that they do and blow my mind. And Kenny is one of them. Yeah. You have Shaq Leonard, Jonathan Taylor, DeForest Buckner occasionally does that, but Kenny does stuff that I just don't think other people are capable of mentally and physically sometimes. And yeah, kudos to him. The first Pro Bowl was overdue last year. Top 100. I dig it. It comes from the players, so they're acknowledging he's one of the best in the league. So no complaints from me.
Yeah, my favorite inclusion about his selection on that list there was when they mentioned that Tennessee Titans interception.
Yeah,
I think
I
they
saw
had
you say that.
they had Anthony Walker come on and talk about it because I guess Anthony Walker and him have been texting about the Titans or texting about that kind of look. But this was a play where when me and Jonathan Hagler had the Hicks and Hag show throughout the season, we broke down defensive back play, and we ranked every single defensive back moment of the season. He picked Isaiah Rodgers' interception against the Buccaneers as the number one play. I picked Kenny Moore's interception against the Titans because, to me, in my years of covering the NFL, of watching film, of covering the Colts, covering Washington Commanders and stuff like that, it was the greatest defensive back play I've ever seen. I have never seen a play where a guy completely left his assignment with that much confidence and he made the perfect read, jumped a route, and had an interception. I mean, they talk about it in the video, so if you guys want to check it, but he basically had man coverage on the slot receiver, carries the slot receiver up the seam, but he was so savvy enough to know exactly what route combination that the Titans were running that he peeled off of his guy that he was supposed to cover, which I think was A.J. Brown, too. He left A.J. Brown uncovered.
It could have burnt him, though, if it didn't work.
Right. But he knew that the Titans loved to attack that backside dig on that route combination, that he left A.J. Brown, a Pro Bowl receiver, uncovered to jump the backside dig to Marcus Johnson and got a pick and nearly had a pick six on the play. And that put the Colts ahead 14 points in that game. That's just the impact that Kenny Moore brings, that intellect, that savvy, and just to see him rewarded with that, Pro Bowl this year, and then obviously with the NFL 100, I think that was great. But jumping to another player, DeForest Buckner, obviously well-deserved to be on this list. Some people might say he had a bit of a down year last year, and the NFL 100 kind of shows it. But he was still an all-pro Pro Bowler last season. He came in at number 66. Last season, he was at number 27, so he dropped a little bit. But again, DeForest Buckner being on this list, I mean, he's definitely one of the NFL's best 100 players.
Yeah, 27 was perhaps a little rich. I mean, I wasn't going to argue with it. I mean, if players think he's, that good, then, and as far as I've seen, like Jeffrey Simmons was ahead of him this year, which is fine by me because Simmons, Buckner, and Aaron Donald are you could absolutely say that's the top three, and arrange Simmons and Buckner however you want. But no, I mean
Buckner is kind of in that tier after Aaron Donald. There's the Aaron Donald tier.
Aaron Donald is a tier, yeah.
Right. Aaron Donald, the greatest defender ever potentially. But behind that, you have a bunch of defensive tackles. You have Buckner, you have Cam Hayward, you have Simmons, you have Fletcher Cox, guys like that. So Buckner's definitely in that tier. So wherever you rank him in there, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, 66 is fine as long as he's not like the 5th or 6th ranked defensive tackle, but it looked, with Simmons being right there, it looks like it'll be appropriate. Like 66, I guess, could be a little low, but 27 was probably a little too high. So somewhere right there in the middle is fine. I mean, he has 2 All-Pros to his name, 2 Pro Bowls. It's fine by me. I think this year he'll probably, you've talked a lot about this. He'll probably outperform even what he's done before, what people expect from him, because the attention the other guys on the line are going to command. And Ngakoue is going to get double teams. Kwity is going to take advantage of that. DeForest commands double teams. So you can't double team everybody. So Buckner's probably going to feed off that a little bit and maybe add another All-Pro to the mantle.
Oh, I think he will. Yeah, just from watching some of the preseason film and from some of the stuff you said in camp. I mean, I think he had like 5 pass rushing snaps the other day, and he had 2 pressures.
Yeah,
he's just a
that's about average for him.
Yeah, he's an all-pro. But talking about these guys and talking about these star players has kind of got me excited for the NFL season. And you guys know it's almost the start of that NFL season. I love this time of year. And if you're into sports betting or fantasy, you need a competitive edge to win. We try and help you out as much as we can, but who knows us or who helps us? Who knows us? Who helps us? We highly recommend the LES Game Plan app. It's the ultimate sports betting and fantasy companion for the NFL, NBA, and MLB, but not even golf. We can't even throw that into this one.
LES does not provide golf stats.
Right. Unfortunate. LES Game Plan is the only sports app from the most trusted name in sports stats, LES Sports Bureau, the official statisticians of the U.S. sports leagues, including the NFL. Their app lets you access team and player stats, head-to-head team comparisons, the Elias insights from the Elias Sports Bureau Sports Bureau research team. This app really is your one-stop source for player news and league-validated player stats and team records.
That's right, guys. Elias has expert game analysis, perfect for betting, building your fantasy team, and impressing your friends. Think your friends are dum-dums when it comes to fantasy? You've got Elias on your side. There you go. You're going to blow their mind with it. You get player previews to help you draft a winning fantasy team and team previews so you know what to expect as the regular season kicks off. I'm considered a fantasy expert myself, but even I need some help getting my ducks in a row sometimes. And Elias is coming clutch for me. Take my advice. Download the Elias Game Plan app today. With new features available all the time, take your game to the next level. The NFL season is right around the corner, so do not wait. Find Elias Game Plan in the App Store or Play Store today. All right, guys, if you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you're depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. You've heard me talk about it before. The s'mores is dope. The cookie dough is dope. Guess what? We're going to talk about cookie dough today. It's their newest flavor. It's delicious, indulgent cookie dough, which is covered in chocolate. That's right. Built has done it again. It brings all the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of actually making it. Plus, it's healthy for you. Cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories, and they have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. Run to Built.com to snag a box for yourself and the family. It'll be the perfect treat, or you can just find a really good hiding spot and hoard them for yourself and don't let anyone else have them.
What's great about Built is that all their bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. You're going to love the new cookie dough chunk puff. Whether you need a snack for your workout, a late night treat, or just need a quick bite, Built is the perfect protein bar, and they taste better than a candy bar. Ditch the calories, the fats, and the sugar. Grab yourself a Built bar. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKEDON15. All right, Jake. So since we're getting past me mispronouncing Elias or however the heck I was saying it.
I only know it from Sports Center back in the day. That's the only reason why.
I'm borderline illiterate, so I think this is good.
You're doing great, sweetie.
Thank you so much. But getting to the more important topic here, joint practices. And I think you guys have heard us hype up joint practices more than preseason games or practices like in general a lot these past couple of days. We're not very doom and gloom. We're not very overreactionary, but these joint practices are going to be the most important practices of all of camp. This is the time of the year where the coaches can actually put what they want to see out there against a real opponent. It's not against just your guys in camp, and they can have it in a very controlled environment where they want to see these things. So that's what makes this area, these joint practices so important. So Jake, what are you looking for? Because you're going to be there for a lot of these practices. What are you looking for in these joint practices? What do you want to see from the Colts against an opponent in this controlled environment?
Yeah, so it's important to note that the starters are not going to play in these two sides games on Saturday. Because Dan Campbell with the Lions, and I know you hate the preseason. I hate
starters playing in the preseason, so I'm all for it.
So Dan Campbell with the Lions, Frank Reich with the Colts, I don't know about the Lions, but at least for the Colts, they've decided the starters aren't going to play. They're going to focus all their attention on these joint practices. Reason being, there's probably less chance to get hurt. There's going to be some hitting and thumping, but they're not going to be doing much live tackling. And like you said, it's a much more controlled environment. So I want to see the starters in general, how they perform. Wide receivers, especially, that's been a maligned group so far. How do they get separation? Are they going to have the dropsies again? Like what are we looking at? So first and foremost, I want to see the Colts wide receivers against the Lions defensive backs, because the Lions do have some talented guys. Jeff Okudah might still be banged up, but like Amani Oruwariye, I've always loved him. I think they have that other guy with the difficult name I can't think of at the moment.
The Lions had the most difficult names in the secondary, but we're going to say
did he play for Syracuse? You know what I'm talking about.
Fedi Melifanu, I think is his name.
He was from Syracuse. You're right. That is him.
Yep. So I think that's the best I know. But I think that's a great thing to point out is as someone who kind of went back, and now that I finally have the all 22, I could see what the Colts receivers look like against press coverage, because that's what the Colts are really testing in this preseason game. I think Alec Pierce did a good job. He won some, he lost some. Very solid outing. But Paris Campbell, Michael Pittman Jr. didn't look great. I'm not scared about Michael Pittman Jr. He's gonna be amazing. He's gonna be great. Like, he's fine. But Paris Campbell, I want to see a little bit more, because he missed a lot of last season. He missed a lot of the year before. I want to see how he performs against an opponent here with the Detroit Lions. But I think, seeing the receivers, I know that's what everyone's going to be focused on. But for me, I want to see how this edge group does against the Detroit Lions offensive line, because we can laugh and joke that the Detroit Lions aren't this great football team. They have a very good offensive line. I really, really like the offensive line. I mean, from across the line, I know off the top of my head that they have Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson, Frank Ragnow, who's one of the best centers in football, Penei Sewell over at right tackle. I think they have Vaitai at right guard.
I think you're right.
So that's a really
all five guys are notable.
Right. That's honestly, off the top of my head, that's probably top 10, 11 offensive line in football, however you want to stack it. So that'll be a huge test, not only for, the Colts star players like DeForest Buckner, Yannick Ngakoue, but for the guys like Kwity Paye, Dio Dengbo, Ben Banogu, Tyquan Lewis, if he is an active participant throughout this week. We saw these guys play well against the Bills backups, but it's a different animal playing against a pretty good starting offensive line. So I really want to know how those guys are going to do, and see, does the success they just had in this preseason game carry over to these joint practices against, again, a very solid offensive line.
Yeah, totally agree. I want to see what's fact and what's fiction, kind of like you said, that the Colts first and second wave of defensive line has done pretty well, both in the preseason and in camp. Like, they've been consistent performers, but they know the tendencies of the guys they're playing every single day. Like, they go one-on-one with these same blockers every day, pretty much. So they know what to expect. So how's it going to look against a totally different animal, against an above average offensive line with a few guys that are really, really good? So I'm wanting to see that. Someone like Ben Banogu, he's really good at getting by with athleticism and speed, and he can dip the edge pretty well. He's still working on getting some moves together. We talked about the cross chop that he's kind of adopting. But that's a guy, I want to see some of these guys win with mechanics and things like that, not just skirting by with some athleticism. So that'll be a good group to watch. Another one I was looking at, Colts defensive backs against the Lions wide receivers and tight ends, because that's another group for the Colts. It's been really good, but do they look really good because the Colts wide receivers have struggled, or how is it? Because Amon-Ra St. Brown is very good. Josh
DJ
Reynolds,
Chark.
I think,
DJ
Chark has eaten, no pun intended, against the Colts in the past. Is it Josh Reynolds? Is there other? He played with Goff with the Rams.
I don't know if Reynolds is there. This is us going completely off the top of our head.
They have someone of that. Yeah, they have someone of that tier. But Goff played well with him last year because they'd played together with the Rams previously. But no, it's an okay pass catching group plus TJ Hawkinson. Again, it's a fact or fiction thing for me. Have the Colts DBs been doing well because of the Colts receivers, or are they really good?
Yeah, I'm not concerned about Stephon Gilmore or Kenny Moore or even Brandon Faison. A little concerned, obviously, more about Faison than I am about those other two. But I'm more concerned about the guys behind, because, Isaiah Rodgers is going to be out for this whole week. I mean, maybe by some miracle he does get a little bit of practice in, but, he's in the concussion protocol. I imagine he's not going to practice this week. Because the guys behind that, though, after those top three and, 4 with Isaiah Rodgers, they did not look very good in this preseason game. Tony Brown looked fine on special teams, had a couple moments on defense, but besides that, a lot of these guys struggled in the preseason game. So I want to see, can there be someone who takes that cornerback 5 or cornerback 6 position? Because right now, I'm more of the opinion that the Colts cornerback 6 or maybe cornerback 5, I don't know. I still don't know how I feel about Tony Brown. Might not be on the roster right now. I think it might be a waiver wire ad or a trade or something like that. But I want to see one of these guys really really step up to that plate, because there are some guys who have flashed. Again, Tony Brown, I just mentioned, but Dallas Flowers had that one-handed interception in the end zone and had a couple of nice moments, but I want to see him take that next step. I want to see him show out against the Lions and kind of earn a bottom of the roster spot, because right now I don't think anyone's kind of earned those spots at the bottom there.
No, those seem to be wide open, especially considering two guys who could have been corners seem to be pretty firmly set at safety in Rodney Thomas and Marcel Dabo.
Right.
They've both been pretty much exclusively safety, so they're seem to be out of the cornerback discussion. Was that it as far as kind of key groups you were looking at in these practices?
I think so. I mean, some O-line depth things I'm kind of looking at, but I mean, I feel like we have a firm grasp on who the O-line depth guys are going to be right now. So just kind of seeing that solidified. But besides that, it's really just the wide receivers, the corners, and the defensive line. Those are really the spots that we are seeing some battles taking place. And Mike Strachan, like we mentioned at the top of the show, is a big part of that wide receiver group. So it's going to be interesting. It's a huge week for a lot of these guys, and not to ramble here while we're running over on time, but I put on Twitter today the guys who I think are locks for the roster, and I think I came up with 41 guys. They're basically locked. It could be give or take like one or two of those there, so it could be down to like 40 or 39. But those bottom like 12, 13 spots, this week is going to be huge, determining who makes the roster in those bottom 12, 13 spots.
Yeah, last year we saw it be a total difference maker when, like, Chris Williams is a great example, Andrew Brown, they totally turned it on when the joint practices started. So this can be a real turning point with 6 practices left starting tomorrow. It could be big. But I think that's it for us today, everyone. We'll be back with you tomorrow. The Colts have what I can only assume is going to be a lighter practice on Tuesday, followed by the Lions coming into town for the 2 practices on Wednesday and Thursday. They will then have their preseason matchup at Lucas Oil Stadium on Saturday.
Make sure you guys are following at Jake Arthur NFL on Twitter. Put those tweet notifications on and get ready for a great week, because, again, joint practice is super important. You can follow me on Twitter as well at ZachHicks2. I'm putting a lot of preseason stuff out there, a lot of film breakdowns. So if that's your style, follow me. You can follow our written work over at horseshoehuddle.com. That's where you can see all of my preseason breakdowns, all of Jake's news and notes from practice. And then follow us on YouTube. You hit that subscribe button. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers, which means this is, becoming a reality for me. This beautiful header here that might go on my Twitter.
Life with Rod.
Yep. And then wherever you listen to our podcast, rate, review, subscribe, leave us a comment. You guys have been great with that lately, especially on YouTube. I think one of our videos the other day hit over 50 comments. So just keep it up, guys. We love you, and keep up all the love that are coming our way.
Yeah, some of those comments are super weird, but we love it. But,
we do.
Yeah, but thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen today. Now make Locked On Fantasy Football your second listen. Find the intellectual fantasy expert, Vinny Iyer, who brings over 20 years of NFL expertise and a unique angle to give you guys the moves that no one else has. Get ready for your fantasy draft with Locked On Fantasy Football. We'll see you guys tomorrow.